Welcome everyone to another episode of Jasmine Pollock's First Impression Sports Talk. Tonight we have a great show. It's going to be just me and Jeremiah talking about the NBA Finals Game 2 reaction and the Tampa Bay Lightning finally winning a game in the series. So let's get started.
Welcome to Jasmine Pollock's First Impression Sports Talk, the fastest growing sports talk show in the country. And now, here's your host, Jasmine Pollock.
Welcome back to Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. And I want to bring in my guest, Jeremiah, to talk about the NBA Finals so far. So, Jeremiah, we have seen a fluctuation from game 1 to game 2. Game 1, the Warriors, of course, they always dominate that third quarter, but Boston put on a clinic in the fourth quarter. They shot their lights out and put Golden State to sleep in the first game. Second game comes around, we're going to see will Golden State adjust and make adjustments, because the way the Celtics were playing defense, it was hellacious defense. So I want to ask you, what do you think it was more of the Celtics losing this game or the Golden State winning this game? Because we do know that they had multiple turnovers, the Celtics did.
Well, to me, although, Warriors blew them out yesterday, especially in that third and fourth quarter, I'm going to put most of the loss against, on the Celtics side, that it was more their fault. And I'm going to start from the main person and just the main leader of that whole team was supposed to be, I would say, start from Jason Tatum. When it comes to Jason Tatum, he has to do way more than what he's doing now. You're going to have Jaylen Brown come in and give you some good points and everything else, but I feel like Jason Tatum gets in his own way when it comes to himself being a leader for that team, actually being what he's capable of being, because he is the most talented player on that team. To me, I believe that he is the most talented player on that team. But at the same time, I feel like his mentality sets him back so much because, he's so unselfish, whereas sometimes that you need to take over these games. Like at a certain point, I feel like he should have took that game over yesterday, especially in that second half. In the first half, he had a pretty good first half, but that second half is just like the shot selection, the decisions, and not to mention the Boston's turnovers.
Yes.
It was outrageous, having more than 18 plus turnovers just in that second half alone. And you're not going to win the game that much.
You cannot win against Golden State turning the ball over like that. And I felt in the beginning of the game, Boston came out very strong. The defense was playing, they were rotating, they were doing a lot of different things that helped them gain an early lead. But when you turn the ball over and then Golden State goes on and they start doing those flurries where they're shooting threes, Curry's lighting it up. And not to mention, one of the biggest stats from yesterday was Golden State had 40 points in the paint. Now, we know they're a three-point shooting team. They're a very dominant three-point shooting team, but 40 points in the paint, that you can't win that way. And then you're turning the ball over. So like you said, for Jason Tatum, he has to start getting hot. Of course, we know Jaylen Brown, he can do it. And there's a lot of young players that they can come off the bench and give you a good 15, 20 points. But he is the star player. He is the premier player of the Boston Celtics. He has to start getting hot. Him just doing this very lax. I get he's very unselfish. The team passes the ball very well. They're a very unselfish team. But it's now Jason Tatum's time. This is the time where you're in your first finals. You want to compete. You want to say, hey, I'm here. You're playing against Steph Curry, who's competing for his fourth title. You're competing with the best of the best. So you have to say, listen, I am good. I am the best player on this court, and he has to dominate. But Jeremiah, back to when we look at Golden State compared to the first game, Jordan Poole was a little iffy. Yesterday, that wasn't the case. That dude lit it up, and I think the biggest shot that I saw him make was that at the buzzer of third to go into the fourth quarter. That was just that put the Celtics to sleep.
A miracle. First of all, that was such a miracle. Hail Mary, because it's like they were just at that shot. You knew that they were on. You can't pull them down. They were on it all the way from there. I saw that thing going in the air. I knew it was going down. But at the same time, I get worried about the Warriors too, though, because they didn't really shoot the ball out that great.
Neither team did.
Exactly. And that's the big thing, especially with both of these teams, because they both have their own flaws in their way. And you can say, for both teams, you're in a big race against each other. So there are even levels. There is no one that's, better or ones that just much worse. And
Hmm.
for the Warriors, I feel like they're getting too Curry reliant to
Yes, I
where,
agree.
like Klay Thompson, he was 4 for like 19 or something.
Hmm.
Jordan Poole, he had a good third quarter, but
Yes.
those other quarters, it's like, what are we getting from him? And I just feel like if nothing is going right on the offensive side, they try to lean on Curry so much, and then the pressure gets on him.
You can say both teams are facing can we all know Jason Tatum and Curry are probably like the top players of their teams. We could say that. It's just a question of, are the other players around them going to be consistent?
Yes.
And even like the first game, Boston, the role players played their game. The people off the bench, Al Horford, Smart, all of those guys came off and they played very well. And then White coming off the bench. Then next in this second game that happened last night, Al Horford didn't have a good game. He turned the ball over a lot. And you mentioned both teams shot 40%, but that glaring issue was Golden State had 40 points in the paint. But whereas the Boston role players didn't play well, the Golden State role players played very well yesterday and gave Curry that, okay, now I have the help. I'm still concerned about Klay because I think Klay is one of those series game changers. I'm still concerned about him a little bit. He made some plays yesterday, but I'm very concerned about Klay Thompson because he is their second best player. He is the other splash brother. And when he gets going, it's just unstoppable. But of course, you have somebody like Jordan Poole who's coming off the bench and giving you very valuable minutes. But Jeremiah, now that the series is headed back to Boston, Boston has lost 6 of their home playoff games against the Heat, against Milwaukee. What is your take now that people say, okay, Boston doesn't really play well at home, and now you have Golden State who had a very hot game yesterday? What do you think the mindset is or should be for Boston right now? What adjustments should they make?
Well, I would say just from I'm gonna give like both teams, how would they would be looking forward to when it comes to Boston side. You knew that the Warriors, especially in that second half, they didn't shoot too well, and you
Mm-mm.
know that your other contributors like Marcus Smart, Horford, and everybody else, they gave you guys 4 points through that whole night. So you know that you can maybe count on them going forward. But for the Warriors side, they have their confidence to
Yeah,
where they was like, okay, we didn't shoot the ball that good. What happens if we go to their place and not really the pressure is really on us, but we can just like, get our rhythm back. And
right.
that's why I'm just kind of looking at it because it can be such a toss up. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's the crazy thing about both teams. Any night can be either team's night. And it just
Right.
reminds me of so much of the Celtics and Miami Heat series.
Mm-hmm.
It can go to anybody.
But if I'm Jason Tatum, being that we rave about him, everyone raves about how great of a young player he is, and he's a phenomenal young player. Now's the time to say, you know what? It's my time. It's my time to show people what I'm about and show them that I can compete with the best of them and bring his team a championship because we haven't seen Boston since 2010 when they had, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and all those guys, and Garnett. Now you bring them back. We've seen Golden State for the past couple of years, but now that Boston's back, they're getting their mojo back. They're back in the finals, and they're one of the most storied franchises in pro sports, period. So for Jason Tatum, I feel like the pressure is on him because now it's like, okay, I'm headed back home. Fans, my crowd, my arena. It's time for me to take control and take a stand and say, you know what? Not in my house. We're going to dominate Golden State
I
Warriors. But
totally agree.
right before we go to break, everyone talked about Draymond and his fouling and all these different things. What is your take on the technical fouls? Is he getting ejected? Is he going to get suspended? There's just so many questions that should be asked. What do you think?
Well, I know when it comes to Draymond, he can be very a handful. You
Yes.
every team you're going to have a aggravated one, instigator, a one that's always going to try to get under your skin. It
Yep.
takes me back from the days of Dennis Rodman. It takes me from when the Miami Heat used to play Indiana. You had the Lance Stevenson. You had ones that are there not to only for their impact when it comes to their rebounds or just maybe their stuff on offense, but it's also the smallest things, which is getting your team fired up and getting aggressive. I
Right.
feel like Draymond wanted to come and have that thing, especially at the beginning. But at the same time, I can see that sometimes it could get very excessive. And I
Mm-hmm.
know that a lot of the Boston Celtics, they was looking for certain calls to just be like, yo, get this man out of the series and everything else. But I know, especially in this finals, the refs are mostly holding their whistles when it comes
Yes.
to, I guess, the physical play when it comes to everything. Now, ticky-tack fouls, they're going to call some.
Ticky tack. There's
Yeah.
some inconsistency that I'm seeing that's not good. Like that Jaylen Brown foul that wasn't even a foul. So
He didn't even touch him, man. And to me, I told you yesterday, they should maybe have like press conference, refereeing, like,
I
like
agree.
speak afterwards to tell them, like, to have the reporters or the people ask, what did you think about the call that you made early in the third quarter this time and everything else, to see, how those things go.
But I know when he goes to Boston, those fans are going to be riled up. So that wraps up this segment. We're going to talk about the Lightning in the next segment, but we're going to hear from our sponsors, Rent the Runway, The Smoke Shack, and Falling from the Sky from our sponsors. We'll be right back for more First Impression Sports Talk.
Renting is everything. It's style at your doorstep. Off the runway and into your closet. It's every trend you've been dying to try and every designer you've yet to discover. It's wearing it your way every time and making it count everywhere you go. It's never worrying about what to wear because something new is always coming your way. That's why renting is everything. New styles, top designers, all for a flat monthly fee. Start your subscription at renttherunway.com.
Slow roasted over hickory fire and pulled by hand. This is the way pit pork has always been done. Pulled pork lovers, rejoice. The smoky old days are back at the Smoke Shack. From the creative team that brought you The Browning Project and Dead by Morning comes a new thriller that will change the way you look at white-collar crime forever. Falling from the Sky.
You're watching Jasmine Pollock's First Impression Sports Talk. Be sure to join Jasmine every week for great conversation on the NBA, NFL, and a wide variety of sports topics. To see past episodes of First Impression Sports Talk, go to YouTube and search First Impressions Sports Talk. You can connect with Jasmine on LinkedIn by searching Jasmine Pollock. And now, back to more First Impression Sports Talk.
Welcome back to Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. And the voices you heard were from Dion Hunter and Kelly Johnson. And if you want voiceover work done, you can contact Leon at theleonthomasgroup.com. I'm very happy to announce also that I have my own website now, which is called jasmineonsports.com. So if you want to be involved and you want to get on the show and spill your beans and talk about sports, you're more than welcome to be on there and just keep up with what I'm doing and keeping up just with sports in general. But Jeremiah, we're going to use this segment to talk about hockey, which is probably the first time we've had a full segment about hockey. So I'm really excited about that. So I'll tell a little backstory. So for the past couple of years, ever since I was probably a senior in high school, I've been starting to get into hockey very slowly. Now it's more rapid because, of course, the Lightning's winning. So you obviously, and this is the only team in Tampa I really care about. So the Lightning are down 2-1. They won yesterday, which was a much needed win because we were getting dominated in the first two games against the Rangers. And now we finally got it. So Jeremiah, what is your take on the game that we saw yesterday? And is this a momentum swinger for the Tampa Bay Lightning?
Well, I most definitely think that it's a momentum swinger because being back at home in Tampa, the Lightning, it gives them a certain, a bolt of energy. No pun intended, but it gives them a bolt of energy because having your home crowd there, knowing how much of a great defensive team that they know they can be, especially coming back from New York. I know they had just faced, the Florida Panthers, and it was such a sweep series, and you had a young Panthers team that was, had their first win in a long time, but the Lightning's defense was so good to where it's like they kind of laxed a lot. And then they came into New York, and New York was coming off of a high. They just came off of like a gritty series against the last team that they faced. And then they came in and they just what's it called, punched the Lightning in the mouth those first two games. And especially after the first game and the second game, the Lightning is always a team that always tries to come back and get that win, especially in the second game too. But that didn't really happen. So in game 3, they was like, okay, we need to step back and we know who we are. And then they proved it straight at home when they have home court advantage right now.
And I agree. When I look at the first 2 games, we swept the Panthers and we had 10 days off. So we're still waiting for the Rangers and the Hurricanes to finish up their series. And the Rangers end up pulling that out. We go to New York. We were getting killed on the power plays. Like, I mean, it was bad. And, I was like, I couldn't even recognize this Panthers team. Not this Panthers team, but this Lightning team. I couldn't recognize them because this wasn't them. And I get, oh yeah, they were rusty, but this is the playoffs. This is serious. This is a big series, obviously, to get to the Stanley Cup final. It's a very big series. And the Rangers team, everyone's tired of the Lightning. They saw them win the past 2 years. They hear the fans talking. They're tired of seeing us all the time. So you have a Rangers team who is very, very good, and they have a great goaltender in Igor, and we were just getting dominated. I thought in the second game we got a little bit closer, but still we were getting dominated. We go back home, our home crowd, and we start making plays. We start playing Lightning hockey, and it was relieving to see. And even with 41 seconds left, the game's tied because I know Stamkos, he scored the second goal, and then you have Palat, 41 seconds left, he scores. So it was phenomenal. But for us, there's still some concerning things that I think we need to start off earlier on them instead of waiting to come back, because I'm starting to see they like to strike first in all 3 of the games. They scored first. And I think the strategy we should do now in the second game is to strike first, because Rangers are very talented. They're very good. And I saw both goalies were playing very well, and they were blocking a lot of shots. But for me, I think the game strategy is to start off hot. But Jeremiah, if the Lightning do win this series, which I hope they do, can we go for a three-peat? Can we win the three-peat? Can we go for that? Is that going to happen? Please say yes.
Yes, I think it is possible because right now they're in the conference finals right now. And to be honest, when it comes to the Lightning, they have the best perimeter defense. Let's not ever shy away from that. They are defending champions for a reason. 2 straight years. And I know that the Rangers, they are watching everything because they want to be the team to take down, the 2-peat team and not let them get a 3-peat. That is just like, it reminds me of when the Lakers was on their 3-peat already. And then they bumped into the Pistons with all of them, just making an upset. But for, the Lightning right now, I feel like they have a chance to do that. But it takes this must-win next game for them.
Yes,
because they can't go down 3-1. Yes, they can't go down 3-1 because if it's going to be down 3-1, it's going to be even more difficult to even get back into the series.
Then you go back. Then if we do lose, hopefully, we can tie this series. But if we do lose and we're down 3-1 and they have to go back for game 5, it's not going to look good for us. But what I saw yesterday was the heart of a champion. Like you saw them, they're battle tested. Obviously, they won 2 cups the past 2 years. So, and you always see that, you always have that question of, like, even when we look at the Tom Brady's, the Michael Jordans, even though they've won so much, those guys still play at high. They were still playing at high levels. Jordan was still playing at a high level. Then you're looking at what Brady's doing. It's about the heart of the champion. And you have a lot of young players who are playing very well for us, and then of course you have the vet in Stamkos who's, constantly giving us that edge as well. But we have to strike first. Like, I think that is probably my biggest strategy for us to, play a little bit better, because I want to see how the Rangers play from behind. And I saw yesterday what we did and how we handled them, and we played much better defense than we did the past 2 games. So that's what I want to see more of that. But Jeremiah, for your Panthers, let's talk about your Panthers for a little bit. The past 2 years, they have been one of the top seeds in the Eastern Conference. What is your expectation for next year? Because I know they do very well in the regular season, and they play the Lightning. It's like a roadblock. So what are the expectations for the Panthers next season? What are they going to do next season? They have a good roster. They have a good future ahead of them. But what is your expectations?
I just believe when it comes to them, keep searching in the market and keep the ones that you have right now, especially. I don't think that you should be trading anybody away, letting anybody go. This was a successful season, better than ones that we had in last like 20 to almost to 30 years right now.
Yeah.
So I feel like for the Panthers, they're heading in the right direction. Of course, we have, the school bullies of Florida, which is, the Lightning right now. They beat us 2 straight years when it comes to us being in the playoffs. Last year was the first round. This year it was the second round. And, they're just that elite team together right now. They're not a pushover for no reason. And it just shows, especially when we played them in that second round, we have steps to go. We're there, but we have steps to go. And the Lightning, they're just more, what was the word that I would say? They are more, they're more experienced, and they are more, just smarter and just better right now, especially when it comes to their defense. It seemed like the Panthers could even find a bucket. They couldn't find one bucket. We didn't get a single score until, I would say, the second game, into maybe the third.
And they were a very good scoring team. That's the thing. And they could not find the net at all. It was just very suffocating. But I want to focus on this series. I want the Lightning to pull this out, because I went on Twitter during the game because I kept up with the game in that way, because I wasn't able to watch it. But I was watching clips, and I rewatched the whole game twice yesterday. I did not realize Rangers fans were that cocky. Like, they're like, I was like on the Lightning page,
it's a Knicks mentality
Rangers fans under our comments, and I'm like, they're saying, oh, how does it feel, to finally lose and different things like that. You guys got cheap cups, and it's like, really? And I was just like, okay. It's all fun and games, where it's trash talk. I have no problem with that, but you got to be realistic. Like,
to them, when it comes to New York, in their mind, they think whoever wins in New York, they're the king of New York. So they think that the Rangers are the king of New York's right now.
Yeah.
And they think they're who can rule.
And when you look at New York is a very big sports town. I mean, of course, you got a lot of football, NBA, hockey, baseball, all of that. It's a huge town. So I get those fans are like crazy, but they're crazy. Like, they were under Lightning fan page comments. Like, I'm just like, what? But Jeremiah, thank you. That wraps up tonight's show. I hope the Lightning tie the series. I'm hoping and waiting. I really want them to tie the series and, at least get it to game 7 or game 6. I have confidence because I saw a lot of things change. Boston is coming back home, so we'll see how that goes. I think it's going to be a lot more competitive in that game. Don't ask me who I'm picking yet, because I have to marinate on it, because I lost the last time. But I think it's going to be a lot closer. I'll say that. Boston's at home. I think the fans are going to be crazy because they haven't been there in the past decade. So you're going to have a lot of Boston fans going to be out there causing issues for Golden State. But just a reminder, if you guys want to be a guest on my show, if you guys want to keep up with what I'm doing, you can definitely go to my website at jasmineonsports.com to put your name, email, and contact me. Contact my producer, Leon, just about being on the show. And I would love to have you. We talk a lot of things sports, as you can see. First night actually talking hockey. But thank you all. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Leon. We'll see you next week on Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk on Monday, 9 Eastern. Have a good night.